On March 8, 2014, in the calm darkness before dawn, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 prepared for a routine overnight journey from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. Inside the terminal, passengers moved with the quiet, tired energy of a late-night departure family settling children, business travelers checking email, tourists ready to sleep through the flight. Nothing in the air suggested history was about to experience one of its most enduring mysteries. The aircraft waiting on the tarmac was a Boeing 777-200, a long-range, wide-body jet respected across the aviation world for its reliability and safety. Airlines trusted it, pilots admired it, engineers praised its redundancy and strength. If any aircraft symbolized stability, it was the Boeing 777. In the cockpit sat Captain Zahari H. Hamadi Shah and First Officer Farik Hamid, both trained, certified, and considered competent operators of this aircraft. Final checks were completed. Communication with air traffic control began normally. At 12:41 a.m., MH370 lifted off the runway, rising into the Malaysian night as it had done many times before. For the first 40 minutes, everything proceeded with complete normalcy. The aircraft climbed to cruising altitude. The cabin crew prepared for service. Radio contact was smooth and uneventful. The weather was calm, the airspace clear, and all systems on board reflected a stable flight. The jet crossed toward the boundary between Malaysia and Vietnam as thousands of flights do every week. At 1:19 a.m., the CU pilot delivered the final recorded words from the cockpit. "Good night, Malaysian 370. The tone was calm, professional, ordinary. Seconds later, MH370's transponder stopped transmitting. On civilian radar screens, the aircraft vanished. Controllers attempted to contact the flight repeatedly, switching frequencies, calling through relay aircraft, and attempting emergency channels. None were answered. To civilian systems, MH370 was gone, but primary military radar using brought echoes instead of transponder data continued. To see something, that something made a sharp, deliberate turn. The aircraft reversed course over the South China Sea, banked smoothly, and crossed back over the Malaysian peninsula. The path was not erratic or characteristic of a failing aircraft. It was precise, controlled, measured. The jet flew over Penang, continued toward the Strait of Malacca, and maintained altitude in a way that suggested purposeful navigation, while radios remained silent. Another system on board the aircraft quietly remained active, the satellite communication unit. It sent timed digital handshakes to an orbiting Inmarsat satellite, brief exchanges confirming the aircraft's existence. These signals were never designed for location tracking, yet they provided crucial information. By measuring the timing and frequency shift of each handshake, experts formed arc-curved paths across the Earth, where the aircraft must have been during each handshake.
Follow my YouTube channel for more history.
The data formed a pattern. MH370 stayed in the air for almost 7 hours after its transponder went dark. It traveled along a long, southern path that led deep into one of the most remote parts of the Indian Ocean. This conclusion arose not from speculation, but from consistent satellite analytics, confirmed repeatedly by independent agencies. The moment the aircraft ran out of fuel was marked by a final, incomplete handshake. After that, silence. The world now understood the aircraft's final region, but the ocean it flew into was unimaginably vast. With waters deeper and more complex than almost any other search zone on Earth, the investigation became the largest, most expensive, and most complex search effort in aviation history. Countries launched ships, aircraft, and deep-sea vehicles. Teams mapped underwater terrain that had never been charted before. Sonar scanned thousands of square kilometers. Days turned to weeks, weeks to months, and months to years. What made the search especially difficult was the nature of the Indian Ocean. Beneath its surface lay underwater cliffs, trenches, and ridges capable of hiding an entire aircraft with ease. Powerful currents carried anything lightweight thousands of miles. Early search zones proved incorrect as new data refined the expected flight path. Despite remarkable efforts and cutting-edge equipment, the main wreckage remained hidden. Then, in July 2015, over a year after, MH370 disappeared. A beachcomber on our Union Island found a barnacle-covered flaperon. Tests confirmed it belonged to MH370. More debris followed across the coasts of Mozambique, Madagascar, and Tanzania. These pieces told a consistent story. The aircraft had indeed ended its journey in the southern Indian Ocean in a high-speed impact typical of fuel starvation, but the exact impact point remained unknown. Drift studies only explained where fragments traveled after the crash, not where the crash occurred. The ocean's immense scale meant the wreckage could lie in an abyss thousands of meters deep, covered by silt or hidden along rugged submarine terrain. Investigators built scenario after scenario to understand what happened aboard the aircraft. Mechanical failures were examined. A catastrophic depressurization event was considered. The possibility of a sudden fire affecting communication equipment was explored, but each mechanical explanation met contradictions. A mechanical failure severe enough to remove communication would likely incapacitate flight control systems. Yet MH370 performed controlled turns requiring human input or specific autopilot programming. Hijacking theories were investigated thoroughly as well. Background checks were conducted on all passengers. Luggage was analyzed. Authorities searched for evidence of a coordinated attack or demand. None emerged. A hijacking without communication, demands, or claims of responsibility is virtually unprecedented in aviation history, and no evidence supported such an operation. Attention inevitably turned to the cockpit. If a human-directed event occurred, the pilot in command had the capability to perform every action observed that night. But investigations into the captain's personal life, finances, and relationships found no conclusive motive. Simulator data found in his home showed long-range route explorations, but without context, the data meant little. Aviation enthusiasts routinely practiced extreme or unusual routes. None of the simulator evidence proved intent. Alternate possibilities, such as an incapacitating event where the aircraft continued on autopilot, were analyzed carefully. A depressurization scenario could theoretically cause the crew and passengers to lose consciousness, but the series of deliberate course changes required during the early part of MH370's diversion remained inconsistent with that idea. No fully consistent explanation emerged. The deeper investigators looked, the more the event resisted clarity. Each theory fit parts of the evidence but failed to align with the entire chain of events. The disappearance of MH370 demonstrated how modern aviation, built on systems designed for absolute certainty, could be shaken by a series of events that left no single, clean narrative behind. As years passed, the absence of the main wreckage became the central obstacle preventing closure. The ocean floor likely holds the answers, one final record of the aircraft's final descent, preserved in its flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder. But until the day the wreckage is found, the story remains suspended between evidence and uncertainty. What remains undeniable is the scale of the tragedy. 239 people boarded, a flight that should have lasted less than 7 hours. Families waited for answers that never fully arrived. The world watched as nations collaborated on a search unlike any in human history. The technology of satellites, sonar, and deep-sea robotics was pushed to its limits. Even today, the disappearance continues to influence aviation monitoring systems, emergency protocols, and global tracking standards. Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 lives on as a reminder of the ocean's vastness, the limits of modern surveillance, and the complexity of human-built systems. It stands as one of the rare events that challenged every assumption about how a commercial aircraft can behave, how technology can fail, and how mysteries can still emerge in an age defined by information. Its silence, its depth, and its unforgiving expanse form the final boundary between what is known and what has yet to be discovered, until the wreckage is found. This is the story as the evidence allows it to be told, complete, continuous, and grounded in the facts that remain.